These are devotions for people at a social distance. This morning I was reading in the book of Romans, the letter to the Romans, and in the second chapter, starting at the 17th verse. And the letter to the Romans was written by Paul, as far as we can tell, was written to a church that was very much divided. And it was particularly divided between Jews and Gentiles in the church because of probably a rather unique history of that church in Rome. And so in this passage, Paul speaks directly to the Jews. So he's talking about the Jews in the church and how they are behaving. They're acting kind of superior, as if they are the moral know-it-alls, if you will, in the church. And he gives them this warning. Well, you preach, you then that teach others. He's speaking specifically to the Jews in the congregation. You then that teach others, will you not teach yourselves? Well, you preach against stealing, do you steal? You that forbid adultery, do you commit adultery? You that abhor idols, do you rob temples? So this is obviously a very important principle. If you presume to teach, and this is, anyone who presumes to teach or lead in the church or even in the world needs to take this lesson to heart. You need basically to practice what you preach, and don't be telling people to do one thing while you, or not to do something while you yourself are doing it. Obviously, a very, very important leadership principle that anyone who presumes to lead or teach needs to take to heart, that I need to take to heart. But I rather stumbled over this one. You that abhor idols, do you rob temples? Now, why does he put it that way? I mean, okay, I get, you who preach against stealing, do you steal? You who forbid adultery, do you commit adultery? Sadly, we see leaders doing that kind of thing from time to time, of just doing the very opposite of what they say. But you that abhor idols, do you rob temples? Now, there's obviously no way at all that anyone, any Christian, and especially any Jewish Christian in the city of Rome, would have been involved in literally robbing temples. There were lots of temples in Rome. They had lots of idols in them. And no, they were not breaking into temples and robbing them. So what does he mean when he says, you that abhor idols, do you rob temples? I'm thinking of it this way. People have a tendency to idolatry. That is to say, we have this tendency within us to take a temporary thing of this world and elevate it to some sort of divine status. We do that, and we see it happening, with political leaders at times, especially those who have tendencies to authoritarianism. They become idols. Certain ideas, ways of living are elevated to idolatrous status, given semi-divine power. So this is a human tendency, and yeah, it's wrong, and it's not a good and healthy thing. But I guess what he's suggesting here is that we preach against that, and yet we steal that technique. We rob temples. We steal from the idolaters of the world, their ways of thinking and their ways of acting. We elevate our own ideals to idolatrous status. I think it just suggests to me that this sin of idolatry is rather insidious. So our ideas, our ideals, our concepts, we have this tendency to elevate them and make them absolute, where put them in a place where we cannot question them, we cannot discuss them, and that is not healthy. And so, at least I think this is what's going on in this passage. When we talk about the idolatry of others, we need to be constantly looking at the idolatrous tendencies that we have ourselves. So what are the idols that we are in danger of stealing from the idolaters of this world? And I think we probably have some. This is the lesson I'm taking to heart today. Lord our God, as we see individual figures, as we see ideas and concepts and notions being elevated to godlike status in our society, help us, even as we criticize that, not to adopt, not to steal those kinds of ways of thinking. Let us be self-critical, especially to some of our most cherished notions and ideas, knowing that compassion, love, and mercy are of the highest value in your heart, and that we should not let any ideal get in the way of embracing those things. Amen.